I think that getting that nod in 87 World Cup, and I think that many of the All Blacks that played in that World Cup that went to South Africa had grown up big time. That going over to South Africa and playing in that tournament over there, that 12-match tournament, it was a tough tour. And we learnt a lot about playing football, and standing up and backs against the wall and things like that. And I think that we took that into the World Cup squad. We're toughened, and so we put up. We lost the Test series over there, but notwithstanding that, it toughened all the players up. And then we just built. I think there was a lot of young guys built around the old guys. There was a big chunk of old guys that had already left. The Ashworths had all disappeared. The Haydens had gone. So it was a new breed. So Gary had toughened up a little bit. Then his brother, G-Dub was there, Steve McDowell was there. We had some good boys. We had some very good boys on that tour.
Was it also a time when you thought to yourself, I can play football, but I belong in this All Black team? Was that about the time when you thought that?
Well, I always thought that I was good enough because people were always saying that you should have been in the All Blacks earlier. But notwithstanding that, I never got the opportunity while I was playing for Auckland. Only when Hardy came on board that I did get an opportunity. And so I made the New Zealand Colts in 78. So I didn't then make Auckland until 82, So I was still playing B's.
Haul.
So it was a long haul in there trying to get past the current selectors and breaking into the Auckland scene, was tough.
Well, if it was
even though I'd come through all the grades.
If it was a long haul, that 87 year must have seemed like breakneck speed because you ended up the year as captain.
Well, yeah, it was actually
Kirk.
it was probably the busiest year in my football career, and I look back on it one year, and a couple of years ago I looked back on it, and I went and had a look at the 87 year. I think I must have played over about 53 games of rugby that year, and I was a sevens player as well in Hong Kong. So it was a really busy year. Captain emerging players. Things like that in 86. But, I was really busy in those couple of years. 86, 87 was really, really busy in my career. And so the thing is, you look back and say, gee, you could do it all over again. And nowadays, they only play, 25, 30 games a year.
If they're lucky.
If you're lucky. And so the thing is, but, you look back and it was a busy year, busy time. 87, that's where probably a lot of us stood up as good leaders. And we took that World Cup, and I just think that we were pretty motivated anyway to make the final because of what happened in Nantes.
Yeah, and it was a heck of a team. It had some seriously good players, which showed for the next 2 or 3 years how good you were. You dominated the world.
Yeah, and so the thing is, I listened to a lot of the talk back and some of the the scribes like yourself and that writers who are actually talking about the All Blacks of last year, the team that went through unbeaten. And a lot of them still go back to the 89 team, which was very successful as well. So we went from 87, the start of 87, right through to 1990, when I finished my last game, undefeated. And that was a period, it was a real great period of New Zealand rugby. And it was just a pleasure to be a part of it, and I bowed out of rugby in 1990 in the New Zealand team. But I did have another couple of seasons, 1990 in rep football with North Harbour, 91.
While your axing no doubt hurt, I guess when you look back and see unbeaten All Black captain, there's something that gives you a bit of pride about that.
Well, it's nice to get the accolade, but at the end of the day, it's only a game of rugby. And so as there come spells in our All Black teams that have some really good ones. This team right now, 2013 going into 2014, they lifted the bar big time, gone 2 seasons and they only lost 1 game. And so the thing is, but they're playing on average 15 test matches a year, and that's a big ask. And so they're a really good side. And I've seen a lot of, just watching the difference between the 2011 World Cup team and the 2012, 2013 team. I think there's a lot of different things going on in there, and it's all due to the new coaching regime that they got in there, I believe. And I can see they've got this real, this bottle that they're not going to bow down to anybody, And that's what it was like in the All Blacks in 87, 88, 89. We're not going to bow down to no one, And so the thing is, which is choice. It was great. It's great to see.
Absolutely. And you wanted more of it, but sadly for you, 1990, you got the call. Did you see that coming? Did you hear it coming?
No, I never saw anything coming. I was too busy getting on with my job, We all worked in those days, getting on my job and just playing football for the love of the game, you know, as an amateur. And so the thing is, we never talked about money. We never wanted to be paid in those days. I think that it was tough on the players who actually had businesses who had to bring in managers to run it while they were away. That was tough. I was a government employee, you know, so you know, I was on full salary. But I got out of the Navy in '86 anyway, and so I was working for myself and basically working odd jobs with different people. And you know, Murray Deaker and I got together, and Brad Johnson and I was a hammer hand for a little while until I broke my hand and little things like that. So yeah, and then all of a sudden I decided, after the '87 World Cup, got asked to go overseas, so I went overseas and I enjoyed it. And so we basically were playing home and away seasons all the time from then on.
You had a few theories about why you got dropped from the All Blacks. Have you changed any of those ideas, or have you come to any firmer solution about why?
Well, when you listen to people, you know, like I met up with a couple of All Blacks, and or one All Black in particular, and he told me what was going on in '89 behind closed doors. You know, meetings going on just to get rid of me. And so
this is player-driven meetings?
Player-driven meetings, and basically he told me what was going on, and it just so happens that, you know, these things happen and you don't know about it. But I found out about 3 years later, after I'd been dropped. And so you know, you always have to watch your back. You know, there's always something going on. It could be going on inside the team. The egos of players can be pretty big, and I think that it happened. And so you know, I was going on 34, I think, and I said, you know, I've had a very good run, won a World Cup, you know, and I'd love to have gone to the next World Cup, but it wasn't to be.
Lots was always made of your rivalry, for want of another word, with Zinzan Brooke, and on all sorts of fronts. He was a very different player from you at the start. Did you get along with Zinny? Did you admire his talents?
A lot of people believe there was a rift between Zinny and I. That's why I got dropped. But we've never had a problem, you know, between him and I. I always said to him that, you know, if you want to talk, we talk anytime. And so we've had a couple of conversations together, and he didn't mind playing 6 while I was playing 8, you know, and so he just wanted to play. That was his big thing. He just wanted to play, and. But he had to actually really prove himself. I wasn't going to give the position away to him. And he kept me honest, you know, as a bit young. His skills he had were tremendous. And I think that Auckland allowed him to do anything he wanted to do. But when the All Blacks, we never saw a lot of that skill. We saw a bit of it, but not to the same extent. Because he had to do a little bit more hard work.
Well, he was a late bloomer with the All Blacks, really.
Yeah, he didn't really get into
92, really.
Yeah, that's right.
When he came to us.
So he got the job in 1990, and then 91 went to the World Cup, but then, you know, he lost his position to Aaron Penny because, you know, Laurie Mains took over. And Zinny was a little bit thing, so he went to the side of the scrum, you know. Little things like that. So different coaches have different reasons for picking their players, and great guy, great rugby player. Yeah. And, you know, he set a lot of benchmarks for the style of rugby that he would prevail in today's rugby, big time. Oh, yeah. Because, you know, it's so loose. And there's always opportunities, not so many people in the ruck anymore, but there's probably less room for him out wide, so he wouldn't be able to run and do his things half the time. But, you know, he'd still be a great footballer today for the skills he possesses.
For most of your All Black career, Grizz Wiley was the coach, former number 8.
Yeah.
How did you get along with Grizz? He was a man of very few words, but were you on a wavelength with him all the time?
Grizz and I, we got on all right, and we talked all the time. Not on the telephone, you know, face to face normally, and saying is one of the big things are probably about being dropped at that stage. He's the man who had to do it. He should have talked to me before he actually dropped me, you know, and we should have had a good cordial about it. And we've talked since, and he does
probably wishes he'd done that.
He regrets it, yeah, because I think I was his biggest backstop.